You can understand the history of the Second World War just by examining the coins and banknotes that circulated from 1939 to 1945. Conquests by both Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan in the early years of the war, and then liberation and occupation by the Allies in the later years, necessitated the issue of new coins and banknotes.
France and Great Britain declared war on Germany in early September 1939. The border between France and Germany remained quiet until the spring of 1940. Then the Germans invaded and rapidly conquered really all of France. After the armistice, the agreement was made between the existing German government and the existing French government that the Germans would occupy northern France and leave an independent protectorate, really, again. They established a government that would require obedience. The new French government was known as the Vichy regime because it established itself in the resort city of Vichy. The Vichy government soon established its own coinage, which was very interesting. The traditional French coins had the slogan of Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, liberty, equality, brotherhood. The Vichy regime changed that slogan to Travail, Patrie, Famille, which is work, family, patriotism. It was a new slogan for France. It lasted from 1940 until 1945, when the Germans were chased out of France. The new government immediately returned to the old slogan of liberty, equality, fraternity, which it has continued until this very day. In June 1940, after the Germans had effectively won the war with France, Italy declared war on France and England. Here is a coin by the Italian government. You'll notice it carries on the obverse the portrait of Victor Emmanuel, who was the king. On the reverse, it has an R for the Rome Mint and the Roman letter XVII. The XVII stands for the 18th year of the rule of fascism in Italy. Mussolini had led in 1922 the famous March on Rome when the fascist party took over. Following from a tradition used on some Roman coins, they put a date not of the existing year, but of what is called the regnal year, the year of reign. Mussolini had reigned for 18 years, so he put the Roman numeral 18 on the back of the coin. In 1941, the Germans were planning to invade Russia. The plans were to start sometime in May. Unfortunately for them, an obstreperous king, young king actually, Peter, in Yugoslavia, who they were planning on just taking over completely in advance of the Russian occupation, refused to go along. The Germans had to divert significant military forces to Yugoslavia. It delayed the invasion of Russia by about 5 or 6 weeks. This is very important because the plan was for the Russians to be completely finished by the end of that year. The Germans very much wanted to finish things. They were very afraid that the Russian winter would cause everything to come to a halt, and they were not prepared for that. The delay was 6 weeks. The Germans marched in then to Russia and made it almost to Moscow. In fact, they were probably 15 miles from downtown Moscow, but then the winter set in. Their machinery, the tanks and artillery started failing. Their troops had not had winter clothing and therefore had to sort of stay indoors or try to keep warm. That month's delay was important because it gave time for the Russians to regroup so that when fighting started again in the spring, it was a different Russian army they had to face. Hitler himself at one point claimed, and perhaps correctly, that diversion to Yugoslavia had cost them the victory in Russia. After the Germans occupied Yugoslavia, they broke it into many pieces, the most important one being Serbia. There was also Croatia, Montenegro, etc. When they came to the central bank of Yugoslavia, they had lots and lots of banknotes. But the banknotes all said Yugoslavia. So they got a wise idea. They decided to overprint them. So if one looks at these two banknotes, one is for the regular issue of Yugoslavia, the other, the word Yugoslavia has been blocked out. And on the left-hand side has been put Serbia National Bank. They've also taken the ship in the center of the banknote and overprinted it with the coat of arms of Serbia. On the other side of the banknote, you'll notice again that the word Yugoslavia, this is in the Cyrillic alphabet, has been removed completely, and the word Serbia has again popped up. On December 7th, 1941, a day which will live in infamy, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor and declared war on the United States. The following day, December 8th, they invaded the Philippines. At that time, the Philippines was an American province, really. American had taken it over after the Spanish in 1901, 1902. It took them about 6 months to totally occupy the Philippines because there were many, many small islands. Naturally, they couldn't garrison all these islands. In fact, the Philippines has about 2,000 islands. They garrisoned the main islands only. The Japanese, as was usual, replaced the existing Philippine currency with their own currency. If one looks at the currency, one notices something very interesting. It bears resemblance to American currency. In fact, even current American currency, you'll see a great similarity. Because the Japanese could not garrison all the islands, many of the small independent islands started issuing their own currency. It is an extensive series with hundreds and hundreds of different banknotes issued, many of them very crude, paper that looks like sort of old supermarket bags or something like that, some misprinted, some printed with bleeding ink, just a terrible mess. They also issued banknotes that featured the portrait of Franklin Delano Roosevelt and General MacArthur, who had been Governor General of the Philippines. The Japanese government tried to suppress the issuing of these banknotes by issuing an ordinance saying that possession, mere possession, could carry the death penalty. It is very unusual to see banknotes that carry the death penalty merely for possession.
During and immediately after the Second World War, the Allied powers led by China, France, Great Britain, the Soviet Union, and the United States, working cooperatively, issued special military currency for Allied troops to use in liberated or newly occupied countries. This was done to protect the local economies. Soldiers serving overseas were customarily paid in local currency, as infusion of home currency might prove disastrous to the local economy. US dollars circulating in liberated France, say, would make the country ripe for hyperinflation and abet the local black market. Allied military currency, or AMC, was produced in Austrian shillings, French francs, German marks, Italian lira, and Japanese yen. Each issue was produced in secret and given a code name: Operation Husky, Operation Tomcat, Operation Wild Dog, Operation Ordain, and Operation Toy Horse. The first notes went into circulation in August 1943 in Italy and would not be completely withdrawn from use until the end of the 1940s.